Hello, and welcome to the judge training video for the Minnesota Urban Debate League. The goal of this video is to give you an idea of what policy debate entails and the general expectations and responsibilities of a judge while at a tournament. First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about policy debate. Policy debate is an activity in which two teams, one affirmative and one negative, debate about a specific topic. Each team is made up of two students, and these students take turns speaking during the round. The four students are designated by 1A and 2A, which stands for the first and second speaker on the affirmative team, and 1N and 2N, which stands for the first and second speaker on the negative team. Debates have a very specific structure, which we will talk about on the next slide. And judges are responsible for deciding which team wins the round based off of who provides better evidence and better arguments. And the topic being debated this year is criminal justice reform. Information about the structure of a debate round can be found in the document emailed to you titled Cheat Sheet. This chart also outlines how a round is structured. It shows you the order of the speeches that will be given and how long each speech lasts. As a judge, you are responsible for keeping track of the speech times and letting students know when their time is up. Most judges use their phone timers for this and let it ring at the end of each speech so students can hear it and know to stop. So I like to think of a debate round as being broken into two parts. The first part is labeled in orange and yellow on this chart, and the second part is labeled in green. The first part of a debate includes the constructive arguments, which is when debaters read evidence. The evidence they read will include the key arguments they'll be using to convince you that their team is right and their opponent is wrong. After each constructive argument, the opposing team will conduct a cross-examination. This is when speakers ask their opponent questions about what was just presented. The questions can be used to clarify any confusion or to poke holes in their opponent's arguments. Typically, cross-examinations will consist of one student asking another student questions. However, students may ask you if it's okay to tag team during a debate. This is when the students on a team work together to either ask or answer questions during the cross-examinations. This is okay to do if you are comfortable with it. So students go back and forth between the constructive arguments and cross-examinations until each student has gotten a chance to take part in each type of speech. And that is the first part of the debate. The second part of the debate consists of the rebuttals, again labeled in green on the chart. This is when speakers summarize the arguments that were presented in their own words. They then compare the strength of the arguments that were presented and explain why their team should win. On top of the speeches in the table, each team is allowed 8 minutes of preparation time. This is when students can talk to their partner to discuss strategies or make a plan for what they're going to say. The thing about prep time is it can only be used in between speeches, not during speeches. The students will tell you when they need prep time and when they're done. And finally, while prep time can be used all at one time, it will usually be broken up throughout the round. So make sure to keep track of how much prep time each team has remaining. Your responsibilities as a judge are outlined in the Judge Responsibilities document that was emailed to you. In short, once you're in a round, you will first facilitate the debate. Introduce yourself to the students, have them do the same. You will then lead the round. I like to use my cheat sheet to announce what is about to happen throughout a round. For example, I might start by saying, okay, everyone, we will begin with the first affirmative constructive speech. You have 8 minutes. When the speaker begins their speech, I begin the timer. When the time is up, I say, great job. Next is the cross-examination. You have 3 minutes. and so on and so forth. While students are speaking, it's a great idea to take notes about important points or arguments being brought up during the round. It's also a good idea to take notes on the ballot about what students are doing well and what they can improve upon. Finally, remember to track that time for speeches and preparation time during the round. Once the students finish the debate, you will score and provide commentary. Let students know if you need a minute to decide on a winner after they finish speaking. When making your decision, think about which team told a more compelling story overall. Remember to focus on the arguments when deciding a winner. Things not to include when you're considering is your personal opinion about the topic, physical appearance or accents of debaters. You will then fill out the ballot. How to fill out your ballot will be covered more in detail in a separate training video, but do know that you can use the document emailed to you titled Helpful Comments for Students if you would like some guidance on what to write on the ballot. Once you have gathered your thoughts and filled out your ballot, you will spend a few minutes sharing with the students, first of all, who won the round. You will then share your RFD or reason for decision. This should be 2 to 3 sentences that state and compare the strongest arguments from the round and explain how that influenced your final decision. All in all, it should explain why you chose the team you did. Finally, you will share some thoughts on what each team did well and what they can work on for next time. Lastly, you will turn in your ballot and repeat. Make any final changes to your ballot and then submit it online. Next, I'd like to talk briefly about some other judge expectations. First and foremost, we'd like everyone to be aware of implicit bias while judging. This is when we have attitudes or stereotypes about people without our conscious knowledge. It's something we all do naturally. We like to share some common implicit biases in the debate world with judges so we can all be more aware of them and mindful about them during debate rounds so we can avoid them. So while judging, keep in mind that in debate, females tend to receive more comments about clothing and pitch of voice. These are things we do not take into consideration during debate. Also, females tend to receive more comments about being aggressive. Third, teams that are dressed nicer or maybe have a nicer looking Zoom background or don't run into any tech issues might be scored higher in a round. And lastly, people with accents tend to be docked speaker points. Again, these are all things that should not affect our final decisions while judging a debate round. All in all, remember that you're not here to be the cool judge. You are here to be a caring adult and educator for youth. These students will look up to you and take what you tell them very seriously, so keep that in mind throughout the round. In addition to being aware of implicit bias, I'd like to touch upon the sensitive nature of the topic being debated this year, criminal justice reform. Discussions in your debate rounds may be triggering to students, which means conversations may bring on a stress response in a person because of an underlying memory of trauma. During the debate season, students will talk about this with their coaches and learn about things like self-awareness, self-care, how to have healthy arguments, and how to respond to conflict, in hopes that this will give students the tools they need to respond to a trigger in a healthy way if it does come up. There are a few things you can do to help though. First, do the very best you can to create an environment that feels welcoming and feels safe and supportive for students. If during a round you notice an argument is getting a little heated or a student is beginning to lose their cool, please either ask the students if they would like to or just simply announce that you are all going to take a quick 3-minute break to turn off or leave your cameras, regardless of where you're at in the round. The students will be aware that this might happen and should know about some self-regulation tools that they can use to calm down if they need to. Also, know that students can request a break during a round if they'd like to. Sometimes it's not very obvious to an observer when someone needs this or is being triggered. So if a student asks for a break, please respect that and allow it. Finally, if an incident does take place, please inform a staff member just so we can check in with the student afterwards. So to sum this training up, when you enter a debate round, you will first introduce yourself. You'll then listen to the debate. Please remember to be aware of your opinions and biases and set those aside. Also make sure to keep track of speech times. And throughout the round, actively listen to the debates and take notes about important points or arguments. Finally, make sure to hold a supportive space for the students. Remind students that mistakes are okay and offer encouragement, especially if someone is looking particularly nervous during a round. Once the round is over, you will score and give feedback. I like to score students based on how well they brought the entire debate together to tell a story about why their team should win. This should include points from both the affirmative and negative sides. And then finally, for feedback, use that positivity sandwich. Start with something the team did well, then offer a suggestion of how to improve, and finish it up with something else that the team did well. If you notice things like poor sportsmanship during the round, this is a great time to mention that. When you are done scoring and giving feedback, submit your ballot and continue on to your next round. And please, if at any point you have any questions or problems, please contact a staff member. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. The other video emailed to you includes instructions about how to get into your virtual debate round and submit your ballot online. Please make sure to watch that video as well before your round begins. If you have any questions, please email udlvolunteers@augsburg.edu, shown here on the screen. You can also arrive to the virtual tournament a little early to ask any questions if you prefer. Thank you again, and we look very forward to seeing you at the virtual tournament.